Today, I want to talk about why we need to reimagine retirement, reinvent the concept entirely. And the first reason is financial. It once upon a time worked pretty well. People worked until 65, Social Security benefits kicked in. They were dead by 67. It worked just fine. Now, because of longevity, people have, maybe 30 years to live. There's more and more people living to age 100. I know when my father passed away, there was kind of a group memorial for everyone in the senior center that had passed on a certain length of time. And I think out of like 7 people who had passed, 2 of them hit age 100. I know that's unusual, I'm sure, statistically, but it was stunning. It used to be rare, and now it is not so rare for people to live to 100 or beyond. And so if people think they're going to retire at 62 or 65 or 67, some people are aiming to retire young, retire at 50. Like, you need to be prepared for 50 more years potentially of living. And most people just aren't. Like, the math just doesn't work. Maybe you go to school, maybe you go to college or some other institution of learning, and then people oftentimes aren't really getting into work and getting into their career until age 25. And so then if you're retiring at 65, it's sort of a common age that people aim for. Then, you're looking at working 40 years and then trying to live another 30, potentially even more years on the money that you save. And of course, we've got inflation working against us. That's why there's Monte Carlo simulations. I did a separate video about, how much money do you need to retire? And today, like I said, I want to talk about why this model is broken. And financially is really just one part of the model. Something that also happens to people when they retire early is they get bored. Believe it or not, they play some games of golf and walk on the beach or watch television or whatever it is that they do with their time. And after 2 or 3 months, they are bored to death. Not only that, but they're missing the contribution, the interaction and the contribution that comes from work. And maybe they don't want to go back to the thing that they were doing, to their old career or to the job. Maybe they especially don't want to go back to the cubicle or to the commute, but there's all other kinds of things that we can do that feed our soul. And maybe it's volunteer work. Sometimes people financially is not maybe a concern, but then they engage in other ways. There's also a life reason, a lifestyle reason. And this is a model that my friend Kim Butler, I don't know if it came originally from her, but years ago she explained this to me and it stuck with me, obviously. And it's this model where we tend to divide up life into these 3 categories. First we have school and we have learning, and that starts at kindergarten or pre-K and ends when we get, whatever the last degree is. Maybe it's a high school degree, a bachelor's degree, master's, even a PhD. But when we're done with school, then we're done. And then we move into the work portion of our life. And maybe that's 20 or 25 age until 65-ish. And we work hard, and we don't really take a lot of time off. Maybe you get a couple of vacations a year, but you work. And if you don't like it, too bad. It's your time to work until it's time to retire and get that gold watch. And then when people retire, then we go into I'll call it the enjoy phase. And maybe that's travel and play and adventure, if you're still healthy enough at that point. Or maybe it's the sit phase. If you don't have the budget or the health to travel and enjoy life, then maybe it's the sit around and watch TV and eat top ramen phase. Not really a phase I would look forward to. But again, it's this, okay, school, learn, work, and now you retire and you enjoy and you play. But what if we just put those 3 things into a blender, and now you have permission to enjoy all 3 all lifelong. So then, instead of learning until we get that degree so that we can work the job, so that then we get to a point where we don't have to work the job, we are instead becoming lifelong learners. And whether that looks like maybe going back to school or getting mentors or reading a lot of books, it can look a lot of different ways, but acknowledging that we are lifelong learners, and the more we invite our minds to keep learning, then the younger we stay. And then, yes, we work and we contribute, but it doesn't have to look like full-time work for 40 years and then you retire and you get the gold watch and you're bored or you're worried that you're going to run out of money. Instead, we work our whole life long, maybe beginning as children. And Kim Butler was somebody that she worked as a child, not for money, but she grew up on a farm. And so she milked cows and earned money for her to put herself through college. And maybe for other people, it looks differently. I did not work growing up, but then worked part-time once I graduated from high school, on and off through college. I didn't really do the typical, career path, but rather than thinking about I'm going to retire and, not work at all after 65, a lot of people, they go into, maybe it's a second career, maybe it's part-time work, could be coaching, consulting. I published a book last year with Kim Butler, who I was just mentioning. And so I'm looking at writing more books and having other ways of generating a passive income that can grow potentially over time. For some people, maybe it's working seasonally, taking sabbaticals. There's all kinds of models that we can have. I chatted today with my friend Brenda, who took a retirement at 55 and she has a pension. And she's looking at other ways that she's going to keep earning money, but not through that particular job or model. And definitely coaching is a piece of it for her. There may also be consulting. She's got a lot of skills, so she has a lot of different ways that she can earn money. And locally here, the antique store, there was a woman who was managing that in her 90s. And so just because we've stopped commuting and going to the cubicle doesn't mean that we don't want to still. Maybe you were a teacher, but now you're a tutor. And, you were, my mother-in-law worked in social services her whole life. And then after retiring, she decided to become a live-in full-time nanny. And she moved from Longview, Washington up to Seattle and moved in with a family that had some means and some wealth. And she got a chance to travel in her 70s, going places she had never had the chance to go before, and helping to raise a new batch of kids. So there's so many things that we can do, and we can integrate, and then the play, the enjoyment. We don't have to wait until retirement. I'm really good at this. I love to travel. I love to have adventures and travel and integrate these things together. 4 years ago, I went to Hawaii for, I think it was 32 or 33 days. And I did some work. I did really sort of two bookend vacation with my daughter in Kauai, and then I went to Molokai and I lived and worked for a few weeks, and then I went to Maui and met up with my boyfriend and had like vacation number 2 before I came home. So it can look so many different ways, and when we integrate that enjoyment and that play into our lives, now we're not burning out. When we integrate the learning and the work and the contribution and the enjoyment, then we have a sustainable lifestyle where we are connected and we are contributing and we are continuing to earn and continuing to be able to save without, oh my gosh, I just can't wait till I get to 65 and I leave this job. So I want to leave you that model as a new possibility. And not only, I know we talked about why we need to reinvent and reimagine, but that's some models for you to play with. I'd love to know what you got out of this. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you liked this. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. And remember, you are powerful. You are prosperous. You are free. You're not limited to the models that are around us. We can create our own.